So we're actually going to do 2 units in one here, or 2 lessons in one, because they're pretty darn easy. So the first one is we're going to add and subtract radical expressions. So if you look here, we've got our radicals, right? Here's our square root sign, our square root sign. So we want to add these two together. Now, if they're the same radical, then no problem, just leave it. So we got a square root of 2, and then we just add the numbers in front. Now there needs to be a number right here. And since there's not one, we're going to put a little 1 right there. So we're just going to add -5 plus 1. And it makes -4. And that's it. -4 square root of 2. So as long as these two match, you just keep it, pretend like they're not even there. Just write it down, and then you just add the numbers in front. Let's see, where's my trash can? There's my trash can. Okay. The problem comes when they are not the same. So you know what? Let's see if we can find another one where they're the same, just to make it easy. Okay. So square root of 2, those are the same. Write down the square root of 2, and then just basically forget about them. I don't need them anymore. And we add 4 plus 8. 4 plus 8 is 12, and I get 12 square root of 2. All right. Can't be simpler. Just adding. It's 7 and 7. All right, so we're going to write down the square root of 7 and then just forget about them. In front, we had 5 plus 4. 5 plus 4 is 9. If these are adding, but if they've been subtracting, you just do 5 minus 4. No problem. Okay, now let's see if we can't find one that's a problem. Okay, so here's a problem. I can only add them together if they are exactly the same. So I can add the square root of 5 with anything else as long as it's the square root of 5. Well, it's not. So what we need to do is we actually need to simplify these, and we had a lesson on simplifying them earlier. Now 5 won't simplify, so I'm just going to leave it negative. I'm going to put a 1 right there. It's actually got a 1 in front. Square root of 5. Okay, minus. And I do need to simplify this square root of 20. So it had an 8 in front. We're just going to leave the 8 over there. We're going to take this 20, and we're going to start to break it down. So 20 is 2 times 10. There's a prime number. 10 is 2 times 5. There's a prime number. And 5 is a prime number. All right, so 20 is 2, 2, and 5. All right, so I have a pair of 2s. So I'm going to mark those out, and I'm going to put a 2 in front in here. And the 5 is going to stay. So I've got an 8 that was there already, a 2 that we had a pair of, and a square root of 5. Well, 8 times 2 is 16, square root of 5. All right, so my simplified form of this is 16 square root of 5. Now, because we did this, the radicals actually match. So I'm going to write it down, square root of 5, and then forget about it. And then we're going to do -1 minus 16, and that makes -17. All right, these don't match. So let's take our -3. We got square root of 50. And let's break down the 50. So 50 would be 2 and 25. 25 would be 5 and 5. And that's it. And I have a pair of 5, so I'm going to mark them out, and I'm going to put it in front. So I got -3 times 5, which is -15. I had a 2 left over, so that's going to be square root of 2. All right, let's switch colors here for this other one. So now I've got 3 and the square root of 72. So we're going to break down 72. That's 2 and 36. That's 6 and 6. That's 2 and 3. That's prime, prime, prime. All right, so I'm looking for pairs. So there's a 2 and a 2. So I got a 3 in front. I'm going to write down a 2. There's also a 3 and a 3. So I'm going to write down another 3. And then we got a 2 left over that I didn't mark out. Well, that makes 18 square root of 2. 3 times 2 times 3. Was a plus, so there's a plus. All right, now here's my problem. And notice that my radicals now match. Since they match, we're just going to write it down, square root of 2. Now I don't care about them anymore. And we're going to do -15 plus 18, that's 3. 3 square root of 2 is my answer. So these are a little more complicated. just because you've got to do the simplifying. But if you got the simplifying down, no problem. And they should match. So if something's going wrong, go back and check and make sure that they match. Square root of 2, square root of 2. That's kind of what it's all about. All right, the second part is all about distribution and multiplying. Now, I'm not sure. This may actually be easier or maybe more difficult. I don't really know. But to multiply, we're going to look again. There's a number in front that's a -1 and a square root, and we're going to distribute this. Well, all you do is multiply the regular numbers times the regular numbers and the square roots times the square roots. So if I do -1 times 7, that gives me -7. And then the square root doesn't have anything to multiply by, so I'm just going to call that square root of 5. Now over here, the -1, this has a 1 in front. Well, -1 times -1 makes -1. And the square root of 5 times the square root of 5 makes the square root of 25. Now what you have to watch out for is this goes back to my adding and subtracting. These need to be the same. So I got -7 square root of 5. But what is the square root of 25? Well, that's 5, right? So I can do 1 times 5, so that's 5. All right, they're still not the same, but they are simplified, and I can't go any further. So if they don't end up being the same and I can't simplify anything, then that's it. That's my answer. Notice it says write your answer in simplest form. That means to simplify it as much as you can. Ooh, let's switch tools. All right, again, this has a 1 in front, so does this. So I'm going to distribute. So 1 times -4 is -4. The square root doesn't have anything to multiply by, so we're just going to put square root of 7 there. There's a plus. 1 times 1 is just 1. Square root of 7 times square root of 7 is the square root of 49. Well, hey, it's square root of 49. That's 7. And 7 times 1 is 7. And that won't square root and won't reduce, so there's my answer. So like I said, this might actually be easier than, might actually be easier than adding. Okay. So not negative, excuse me. Got our 1's in front. So -1 times -10 makes +10. Square root of 10 has nothing to multiply by, so square root of 10. See, that was a -1 in front. So -1 times -1 makes +1. And then 10 times 55 makes 550. Okay, so we can't add these. 10 would be 2 and 5. That doesn't break down, so it's going to have 10. Square root of 10. We're not going to do anything with that. 550, though, I bet will break down into something. So we're going to have to break down this 550. Okay, so I'm going to say 5 and 100. Ooh, that's ugly. 5 and 110. That's going to be 10 and 11. And then that's going to be 2 and 5. Oh, look at that. We got a pair of 5s. All right, so I marked them out. So it's going to be 5 square root. I had a 2 and 11 left, so that's going to be 22. All right, plus. And we still can't do anything. So I've simplified them down. This 10 does not match this 22, so I can't do anything with it. All right, that's its simplest form. If for some reason it was like simplifiable further, then like I need to simplify it further. But it is not. That's all I can do. So that's it. That's your answer, and you quit with that. Get rid of that. Go here. Go here. Now, if you get one of these double ones, it's the same thing. We're going to take this 6 and we're going to distribute it. 6 times 7 is 42. 6 times the square root of 5 is 6 times the square root of 5. I can't do anything with that. We'll put a 1 in front. This is a -1. So if I multiply that by 7, I get -7 square root of 21. The negative 1 is still going to be in front. And then 21 times 5 makes 105. Okay, so I have to go through here, and I've got to simplify everything I can. So 42 is just 42. 6 square root of 5, that won't do anything. 21, if I break down 21, that breaks down into 3 and 7. There's no pairs there, so you know what? Can't do anything there. 105, let's see, 105 will break down into the 5 and 21. And 21 would be 3 and 7. And no pairs there. Okay, so there's no pairs at all. I don't really need the one in front. So if there's no pairs, then that's it. That's just my answer, because there's nothing that matches. It's not happy. I don't like it, but, is what it is. If you get one like this that has the squared on it, that just means 2 of them. So we would rewrite this, pen tool. So forget that squared. And I would write 7 square root of 55 minus the square root of 35. And then we would just start distributing. So 7 times 7 is 49. And then 55 times 55 is 3,025. That's a lovely number to work with. 7 times, this has a little negative 1 in front, so it's going to be negative 7. And then 55 times 35 gives me 1,925. And then we're going to do this one. Again, negative 1 in front, so that's a negative 7. And 35 times 55 is the square root of 1,925. And then let's be negative 1 times a negative 1, so that's a positive 1. And then 35 times 35 makes 1225. Okay, so believe it or not, this 49, you can actually square root 3,025. If you do, I get 55. And I didn't write 55 because I am crazy. 55 minus. Now, these two are combinable, right? We got minus 7 and minus 7, so it's going to be minus 14. But we also need to break down 1925 and see if there's anything we can get out of that. Can we simplify that? So let's do 1925. All right, so what can we do with that? We can do that by 5. So that's going to be 5 and 385. 385, I bet you can do that by 5. That's going to be 5 and 77. And that's going to be 7 and 11. So that doesn't do anything. But I do have a pair of 5s. So I can take out a 5. And I had a 7 and 11 left. So that's 77. And then we've got plus. And I think we can square root 1225. Yep, that makes 35. Okay, so I'm going to do 49. So this thing right here has got a square root with it. So I'm going to ignore that for a second. We're going to do 49 times 55 plus this 35. So that's all my regular numbers. That's going to make 2,730 minus. I'm going to do 14 times 5, and that gives me 70, square root of 77. And so all those horrible numbers and ugly stuff, that comes out to be my answer. If that's too much for you, don't worry about it. I would never in real life ask you to do something as horrible as that. Just make sure you understand the basics of multiplying it together.